Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Marlene. Today's video is about overcoming fear and anxiety from a spiritual perspective. So this information comes from some of the work from Edgar Cacey as well as some metaphysical material I've read. And I think fear and anxiety is a universal topic. I think at some point we all have experienced what it is to be in fear or have anxiety. And from a psychologist's point of view, it will be like an emotion that is like natural and that is activated depending on the perception of a danger or threat, whether it's real or imaginary, as well as anxiety is more like a concern. But metaphysically, fear can be seen as a lack of faith and is one of those emotions that vibrates at the lowest frequency if we look at the scale of emotional frequencies. Right? So it's a topic that we can also take into the astral, but I'm not going to go in there. So I just want to touch on some like practical solutions on how to maybe let go of some of the fears or try to ease that anxiety, right? Over like the many cases that Edgar Cayce did during his trance sessions, he found that fear and anxiety usually derive from repressed memories from childhood or past lives, as well as the most common, which was fear of dying. So there are endless ways in which fears manifest. He listed a lot of them, and we all know some of the most common ones are like fear of death, of loneliness, of a person, of a group of people, animals, imaginary monsters, falling, drowning, catastrophes, heights, the unknown, illness, relationships, failed jobs, or losing control, or even letting go of some objects, right? So it's very common to also have the fear of public speaking. And here I'm connecting more to the spiritual side, so it can be a little bit more mental, you could say, like spiritual, more etheric, energetic. So I like how Edgar Cayce makes this connection of fear within the body, mind, and spirit, right? Because he says that, for example, fear that was generated in childhood and was suppressed then doesn't manifest until adulthood, and then you're like wondering if nobody tells you that you experienced something traumatic, then you're just like repeating a certain pattern until you catch on, and then you wonder, for example, like, oh, why do I fear swimming in deep waters, right? It's like, oh, it's because you had this experience as a child, right? You were trying to swim in a large pool and you couldn't, so like you obviously had that like very traumatic experience that was just stuck in your subconscious, but it never came out until you were an adult. So he says the same thing can happen when trauma is like stored in the endocrine glands. So basically the endocrine glands are like our chakra system, right? So our energy centers, they store certain information. So the way he's saying that we have to also like balance these centers, right? To get those suppressed emotions out, or like more imbalance, right? It could also come from past lives. So like our soul, uh, like our memory, it remembers, right? So from time to time on reincarnations, it's like you build a certain vibratory pattern that now can manifest in this life, right? So if you didn't overcome something in a past life, such as a sickness, then now in your present it can manifest, right? But we don't know that consciously until you probably like do a life past regression or access the Akashic records. When we're talking about like healing and letting go of fear and anxiety, it's very important, or at least for Edgar Cayce mentioned that it's ideal to heal all the connections from different types of bodies, right? So the physical, mental, and the spiritual. So he recommended, depending on his patient, like either a specific practice or treatment or more of a generalized one. So obviously there's a lot of them, but he did gave some of the most common ones for his patients, right? He usually would recommend things such as working with a counselor or regressive therapy, as well as learning about your family history. If somebody in your family had an issue and then their grandparents also had the same issue, or just like talking to adults that remember maybe you went through something that you just can't recall now in your adult life, as well as affirmations or subliminals, usually before sleeping, kind of to rewire that conscious mind to stop believing certain scenarios, right? Or also reading material that you feel good. He usually will recommend like reading the Bible, meditation, praying, a balanced life with exercise and good diet, writing in a diary, and usually the different alternative therapies, um, which are a lot of them, like things that usually have to do with regulating your nervous system or like dealing with the lymphatic system, such as like massages and things of that, like things that will like activate your parasympathetic. Oh my god, so many terms. Parasympathetic. I don't know the word. Your system that regulates your relaxation and your digestion, so that way like you don't have that anxiety attack, right? So we're trying to like calm you down. So obviously a lot of these suggestions can take a long time, while others are have like more immediate results, right? But just to mention things that now in like more of the present time, I want to say could be meditation, grounding, and breath work, because I feel that again we are overstimulated all the time with a bunch of screens, a bunch of like electrical radiation, unless you're living like up in a hill, but still there's like so many satellites, all sort of things that are altering our nervous system, that we sometimes can be overwhelmed with all this energy, right? And not even that, it can come from also, again, like information that we're like reading too much or watching too many videos on information, that it just feels like an overwhelm of energy. And so when we are trying to heal or deal with anxiety more than fear, we could say that grounding is very beneficial, because grounding, what it does is that it releases all that um, overcharge of energy into the ground, right? Into Mother Earth. So we all know that being in nature, like, is very healing, is very therapeutic. So we want to be able to do that as much as possible. So if we practice that on a regular basis, is like you won't have to go through those, you could say, not that often anxiety states, because you now know like how essential it is to do it like regularly. You will feel like the benefits, right? Same as breath work, like you know how to control that breathing. So when you're like in having anxiety, we know how hard it can be to control your breathing and bring your mind to the present moment, right? So the more we learn all these techniques, we're able to, um, you can say, more like integrate them and like embody them. Then you won't feel, or yeah, like your body will more like naturally do that for you whenever you like go in a different state of like anxiety, right? Um, and as far as the mind, again, it's like meditation, right? Like being in the present moment. Try not to be too in like the past or the future, right? You want to be here in the now. To say with a solution or practice for the mind, I mean, for the spirit, Edgar Cacey mentioned a lot of reference to scriptures in the Bible as well as Psalms. For example, he mentioned John 14, 15, 16, and 17, and Deuteronomy 30th. So he mentions a lot of Bible scriptures because besides he like really enjoyed reading about it, he knew that there was this connection of kind of like what resonated with the soul, right? Like on a soul level, it's kind of like our etheric bodies frequencies love hearing certain words, right? It's like they make us just feel at ease, like we know, like it resonates with us, right? So hearing that again is like remembering like this connection with God, this connection with source, with oneness, that if we go again like to the law of one, we like remember where we come from, and that kind of eases our fear or anxiety that might be feeling at the moment, right? So it's kind of like bringing the mind to the now, and instead of fear, having more faith, right? It's giving that worries and fear away, right? Like instead of wanting to control how you want things to go, or things that are not going how you want them to go, just to let it to God, right? Like that's usually how they say it, just like let it go, like God will take care of it, right? Metaphysically, you can say it's like you're moving your energy from fear to faith, so you're focusing your energy in something better, right? Like you want to vibrate at a higher level, therefore you're creating from that higher level, and you're just not focusing your attention on that thing, but you're actually living a life that has more, you can say, a blissful state of being, right? So this is like bringing your power back. This is like the phrase that says fear is the absence of faith and courage. So you're bringing that faith, that courage back to you, and you're letting go of that. Okay, so I think that's all for this video. I hope it was helpful.